The subway car rattled along the tracks beneath Manhattan, the fluorescent lights flickering like a heartbeat about to give out. It was just past rush hour on a humid Tuesday in July, the kind of sticky evening where the air conditioning struggled against the press of bodies and the heat seeping up from the tunnels. Sarah Thompson sat wedged between a sleeping construction worker and a teenager blasting music through cracked headphones, her hands cradling the swell of her belly like it was the only solid thing left in the world. 8 months pregnant, she'd been told to avoid the train, to take cabs, to rest. But cabs cost money she didn't have, and rest was a luxury for people whose husbands hadn't walked out 3 weeks ago with nothing but a duffel bag and a text that read, "I can't do this." She wore a white cotton dress stretched thin across her stomach, the hem riding up her thighs because nothing fit anymore. Her feet were swollen in worn leather sandals, and her blonde hair was twisted into a knot that had started the morning neat but now sagged with sweat. She stared at the floor, counting the scuffs on the linoleum, trying not to think about the ache in her lower back or the way the baby had been kicking like it knew something she didn't. Across from her, Mike Riley pretended to read the ads above the windows, teeth whitening, divorce lawyers, a reminder to report suspicious packages. He was 29, off-duty paramedic, still in the navy cargo pants and gray t-shirt he'd worn on his last shift. His shift had ended an hour ago, but he hadn't gone home. Home was a studio in Astoria with a futon and a fridge full of takeout containers, and the idea of sitting there alone felt worse than the subway's stale air. So he rode the 6 train downtown, then uptown, then downtown again, watching people the way other people watched TV. He noticed Sarah because she was breathing wrong, shallow, fast, like she was trying not to cry. Then he noticed the way her hand kept drifting to her belly, pressing hard, then pulling away. He'd seen that before, not in training videos, but in real life. A woman on the F train last year, water breaking in a gush that soaked her sneakers, the whole car pretending not to notice until the baby crowned right there between the poles. Mike stood up. The car lurched. He caught the overhead rail. "Ma'am." His voice was low, the kind of calm that came from yelling over sirens. "You okay?" Sarah looked up. Her eyes were the color of storm clouds, and they were wide with something between panic and exhaustion. "I'm fine," she said, but her voice cracked on the lie. "You're not fine." He crouched in front of her, knees cracking. The construction worker stirred, snorted, went back to sleep. "How far along?" 36 weeks. She swallowed. I think something's wrong." Mike's eyes flicked to her belly, then to the floor. "No puddle." "Not yet." "Contractions." She nodded. "Barely. Started this morning. I thought it was Braxton Hicks." "But there," she gasped, her hand flying to her side. "They're not stopping." The train screeched into the 59th Street station. Doors opened. A rush of bodies pushed in, then out. Mike didn't move. "We're getting off at the next stop. There's a hospital 2 blocks from Union Square." "I can't." Another contraction hit, and she doubled over, her forehead pressing into his shoulder. He smelled her hair, coconut shampoo and fear. "You can." He slipped an arm around her, helping her stand. The teenager pulled out an earbud, stared, then looked away. No one else moved. This was New York. People had places to be. They stumbled onto the platform at Union Square, Sarah leaning heavy on his arm. The air down here was cooler, but it still tasted like brakes and urine. Mike guided her to a bench, knelt again. "I'm Mike. I'm a paramedic. I've got gloves in my bag." He was already pulling them on, the blue nitrile snapping over his knuckles. "I need to check how dilated you are. Is that okay?" She nodded, tears cutting tracks through the sweat on her cheeks. "I don't have anyone. My husband. He left. My mom's in Ohio. I was supposed to be induced next week. I've got you." He said it like a promise, not a platitude. The bench was hard under her. She shifted, wincing. He lifted the hem of her dress just enough, keeping her modesty with his body angled toward the wall. His fingers were gentle but sure, the way you touch someone who's already broken and doesn't need reminding. 7 centimeters, he said after a moment. "Maybe 8. Baby's coming soon." Sarah laughed, a hiccup of a sound. "On the subway." "Better than the subway." He grinned, but his eyes were serious. "We're not making it to the hospital. I'm calling it in." He pulled out his phone, dialed 911 with one hand while the other stayed on her knee. "This is off-duty paramedic Riley. Badge 4721. I've got a 36-week gravid female in active labor, 7 to 8 centimeters, membranes intact, on the mezzanine at Union Square. Need a bus and an OB team. Possible precipitous delivery. The dispatcher's voice crackled back, calm and clipped. ETA 8 minutes. Can you manage? Copy. I've got this. He hung up, met Sarah's eyes. 8 minutes. You're doing great. I'm scared, she whispered. I know. He took her hand. But you're not alone anymore. Another contraction rolled through her, and this time she couldn't stifle the groan. A businessman in a suit glanced over, then away. A woman with a stroller stopped, eyes wide. Do you need help? We're good, Mike said. Just keep the space clear. The woman nodded, herded her kid away. Sarah's breathing turned ragged. I feel pressure. Like I need to. Don't push yet. Mike's voice was steel wrapped in velvet. Pant through it. Hee-hee-hoo. Like that. She tried. Her nails dug into his wrist. I can't. You can. He shifted, sliding behind her so she could lean back against his chest. The bench was too small, but he made it work. I'm right here. The pressure built, a tidal wave she couldn't hold back. Mike, I know. It's time. He adjusted her legs, one foot on the bench, one on the floor. On the next one, you push. I'll catch. The train roared past on the track below, a metallic scream. Sarah bore down, a sound ripping out of her that was half animal, half prayer. Mike's hands were steady, guiding, supporting. Heads out. Good girl. Again. She pushed. The world narrowed to heat and pain and the stranger who wouldn't let go. Another push, and the shoulders slid free. A cry. Thin, furious, perfect. It's a boy, Mike said, voice cracking for the first time. He wrapped the baby in his t-shirt, the gray cotton dark with sweat, and laid him on Sarah's chest. The cord pulsed between them, a lifeline. Sarah stared at the tiny face, the shock of dark hair, the fists already flailing. He's here. Yeah. Mike's eyes were wet, but he was grinning like a fool. He's perfect. Sirens wailed above, growing closer. Boots on stairs. Paramedics, real ones, with stretchers and monitors, burst onto the mezzanine. Mike stood, hands raised. Male infant, Apgar 9, mom's stable. Cords intact. We're good. The OB took over, clamping, cutting, checking. Sarah barely noticed. She was crying, laughing, kissing the top of her son's head. What do I even name him? Mike hesitated. The medics were loading her onto the stretcher, the baby in a warming blanket. Something strong, he said. Something that means he made it through the fire. She looked at him, really looked, for the first time. Mike, she said. His name is Mike. He blinked. You don't have to. I want to. The stretcher rolled toward the stairs. Thank you. For everything. He watched them go, the chaos receding, the platform emptying. His t-shirt was gone, his hands still trembling with adrenaline. A janitor clapped him on the shoulder. Hell of a day, kid. Mike laughed, a sound that started in his chest and spilled out into the humid air. Yeah, he said. Hell of a day. Later, in the hospital, Sarah would hold her son and tell the nurses about the stranger who became her miracle. Mike would go home, shower, sleep for 14 hours straight. He'd get a call 2 days later, Sarah, asking if he'd visit. He would. They'd drink bad coffee in the maternity ward, and she'd show him how to hold a newborn without looking terrified. He'd tell her about his mom, who'd raised him alone in Queens after his dad split. She'd tell him about the ex who couldn't handle the ultrasound, the apartment she might lose, the job she'd have to go back to in 6 weeks. They wouldn't fall in love right away. It would take months. Coffee turning into dinners, dinners turning into late-night talks when the baby wouldn't sleep. It would take Mike changing diapers with the same steady hands that caught a life on a subway bench, Sarah learning to trust again, one small yes at a time. But that night, as the city hummed above them and the trains kept running, something shifted. A beginning, raw and unlikely, born in the flicker of fluorescent lights and the echo of a newborn's cry. In a place where no one looks up, two strangers looked at each other and saw tomorrow. And somewhere between the 6 train and the ambulance bay, a family started, not with a plan, but with a push, a catch, and a name whispered like a prayer. Mike.